And so some kind of fun stuff here as it relates to managing groups and OUs, both from the graphical user interface as well as from the command line here in our module. In fact, what have we talked about in this module? We've talked about that process of creating, copying, configuring, and deleting groups and OUs. The process in the graphical user interface is fundamentally the same, and really even in PowerShell is fundamentally the same as what you were doing with users. A couple of the PowerShell nouns are different, and where exactly you would click in the interface to create or delete these items is slightly different, but for the most part, dealing with groups and OUs is very much the same as dealing with users. However, things get a little different when we start talking about nesting of groups. Active Directory groups at face value provide a great way to consolidate users and consolidate resources that users need to access. But it's the connection of those users to those resources and the nesting of one kind of group into another where things can get a little complicated. And so having a good strategy for your group nesting will ensure that the wrong person doesn't get access to the wrong information. To that end, we took a look at some of the tools you can use to enumerate group membership. Should you end up in a situation where that person gets added to the wrong group, well, you can use some of these nice PowerShell tools with recursion to identify their direct and indirect group membership. We took a look at the rules for converting groups across security, distribution, universal, domain local, and domain global groups, where you can and where you can't go about converting groups should you create them in one format and need them in another. We took a look at group policy and how you can use group policy to define the local group membership using domain global groups, so that once you create those servers in your domain, you can automatically grant the right people the correct permissions. We took a look at delegation of control and how you can delegate the creation and management of Active Directory objects, very specifically organizational units, right within the A. console. And then concluded with a look at one little command here that allows you to change the default Active Directory container where new computers get entered when they're added into the domain. Very handy for getting computers in the right location, and even more so when group policies need to be applied. Coming up next, with our Active Directory now created and our servers a member of that Active Directory, it's time for us to begin dealing with the different kinds of servers and services that we would put in that AD infrastructure. These are things like file and share access, the file servers that contain documents users need. These are things like print and document services that allow users to print out hard copies of whatever documents they may need, as well as configuring servers for remote management, a topic that Jason will lead off with and give you all the necessary information that you need so that the variety of tasks that we've been accomplishing thus far, and as well as through the rest of this learning path, you can do so from the comfort of your administrative desktop without having to remote desktop into the servers directly or walk into that server data center. These days, performing tasks directly on the console of servers is no longer the best practice, and so being able to do multi-server management remotely is something that you really have to know. That entire conversation on server roles and features is the topic for our next course coming up.